Bring in James Golden, who we all know and love as Bo Snerdley, radio host for WABC New York and author. Bo, what do you make of this? The Harris campaign, Hillary Clinton, many in the mainstream media painting such an ominous picture about what Trump and his rally stood for last night and represented. How do you see that comparison to a pro-Nazi event landing with voters in such a close election?
I think it does not land with voters. I think it's disgraceful. I think it minimizes how evil and atrocious the Nazi regime was. I also think that Democrats should look very carefully in the mirror before they make these kind of analogies. After all, who are the people that right now on college campuses around the United States are blatantly anti-Semitic? It's not Republicans, not the Turning Point kids. You go back in history. What is the party that stopped Jewish refugees from coming into the United States, fleeing Hitler? The Democrat Party under FDR. You go further. You want to talk about genocide? Look what's happening in the wombs. And look what the Democrat Party stands for, child experimentation. So I think they should be very careful about this. It's insulting. But, Markie, they're insulting Trump voters. What they are saying is that half the country are neo-Nazis. Yeah. This is a despicable thing to say about Americans. It's insulting, and it should have no place in our politics today.
Also making headlines this morning, over what critics are calling racist and vulgar comments made by some of the speakers that were at that rally last night, including one comedian's joke about Puerto Rico, calling it a floating island of trash. Did the Trump campaign has come out and said it does not reflect our views. Did the Trump campaign step on its messaging goals by even allowing him to be there in the first place? He's known as this kind of, roasting comic, if you will. Did they do themselves a disservice?
They may have. I mean, it's one remark from one comedian that they've since disavowed. That remark, as unfortunate as it is, and it is unfortunate, especially in New York where you have a large Puerto Rican community. But this does not compare with Hillary Clinton, Tim Walz, the others branding half the country as Nazis, as fascists. That is despicable, and that should be the center. If that's their closing message to America, by the way, in the Kamala Harris campaign, that half the country are a bunch of Nazis that want to do the worst things to humanity that we have ever seen done. That doesn't compare to one comic who's off message, whose joke was not funny at all.
I'll be talking to a Trump spokeswoman here in just a little bit about it. I also wanted to get your take while I have you, Bo, on the Washington Post facing criticism right now after deciding not to endorse a presidential candidate in this election. I mean, they really broke from their decades-long tradition of doing so. They had planned to back Vice President Harris. Owner Jeff Bezos, at the helm of that decision, coming in at last minute saying we're not going to do either of them. What do you think was the crux of that decision for him?
Well, supposedly they want to go back to their roots. The Washington Post had a long history of not wanting to endorse candidates. But look, it could be business.
I don't even understand why they do it in the first place, Bo.
Exactly. It's a vanity project. The Washington Post has trashed Trump for 9 years straight. Do they honestly think that their readers are unbiased at this point or need them to decide how to vote? It's vanity. But Jeff Bezos may be looking at the way that the Biden administration has gone after Elon Musk, has gone after other businesses with their lawfare, and may have decided, you know what, I don't want to take a risk that these people will actually win, and I'll be on the wrong side of them. There could be all kind of reasons pertaining to his other business why Bezos and the LA Times decided we're not going to endorse anybody this time around.
Yeah, you could read it a few different ways, I think. Is he protecting his other outside business ventures? Is it getting to the root of journalism? Is it not loving either of them? I mean, look at some of the unions who haven't endorsed either of these candidates either. I mean, who really knows? Bo Snerdley, as always, thank you. I imagine I'll be with you a lot here in the next 8 days. Appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.